It's Friday, July 3. Good afternoon, I'm Herman Green with the Midday News. If you're watching online at onespotmedia.com, a very special welcome to you. As complaints increase over high electricity bills, the Jamaica Public Service Company, JPS, has revealed that its customers are also bearing the cost of electricity theft. Director of Corporate Communications at the JPS, Winsome Callum, made the disclosure on Power 106 FM's Morning Agenda on Friday. O'Shane Masters reports.
Over the past few months, customers of a Jamaica Public Service Company, JPS, have been up in arms with the electricity provider over the significant increases in their light bills. The Office of Utilities Regulation, OUR, on June 16, reported that complaints to its offices via calls, letters and emails were up 209%. Meanwhile, complaints via social media have also risen sharply. But information from the power company has revealed that some of the company's losses are passed on to its customers.
Well, right now, the customers actually pay for about approximately 20% of the theft or overall losses, as we call it. You have technical losses and non-technical losses, and the customers actually pay for about 20% of that. The total amount of losses that we're looking at now is about 27%. So JPS absorbs about 6 to 7%, and the customers, the other 20% is spread across.
In the meantime, one JPS customer says the manner in which the company goes about dealing with electricity theft is unfair to its paying customers.
My greatest challenge is the flippant way that it was disclosed to us, and the manner in which we were told that, yeah, this is what is happening. And I think what we would like to hear is, or personally what I would like to hear, is what's being done about it. Like, what are the strategies that are being put in place, consistently put in place, consistently executed? What are the long-term plans for this issue? Because it can't just be that, oh, well, there's electricity theft. It's a cultural problem. It happens. It's been happening for a long time. We're just going to charge you for it.
Director of Corporate Communications and Customer Experience at the JPS, Winsome Callum, says the company has launched a number of initiatives to deal with electricity theft. However, it's not something the company can tackle by itself.
It is a crime, and as you would appreciate, JPS cannot manage to deal with a crime on its own as an entity. So JPS has made several representation to the OUR, to the government, because we all need to work together on this, and the government has signaled its willingness to support on this, because there are things that should be outside of JPS's control.
O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
Health officials believe they have gained a level of control in 2 COVID-19 clusters that popped up in the country recently. An update was provided at a special select committee meeting for public health at Gordon House on Thursday. Dwayne Anderson has the story.
The authorities say all the COVID-19 cases recorded in Jamaica in June were imported or linked to imported cases. One of those imported cases was in Tivoli Gardens in Kingston.
We had one imported case that we would have isolated. In doing the case investigations, we would have tested members in the household, and we had 4 persons that were confirmed positive.
The number of COVID-19 cases from the Tivoli Gardens cluster climbed to 6 after surveillance work was done on 250 homes and over 1,200 persons. But considering how densely populated Tivoli Gardens is, was a quarantine measure considered?
It's based on going in and assessing all of those things, and then you declare a quarantining of a community or not. And it took us a day or so, having got back the results of some of the sampling, done the temperature checks of people, talking to people, that a determination was taken not to quarantine.
So is the Tivoli situation over now? I mean, is it finished?
No, usually a week after, the community health workers would go back in, not on a very obvious scale, but they would go back in and just speak with the community, find out if there's anybody that is displaying symptoms.
Now, as for Norwood in St. James, the authorities decided the area also did not need to be quarantined.
Situation imported, who had 9 reported contacts, 7 of the contacts were positive. We did the community surveillance here, and we did 64 households, 280 persons were interviewed, 165 samples were taken. We now have the 165 sample results, and we have no positive cases.
The update was provided at a special select committee on public health. Majority of the committee members supported using Zoom for these meetings going forward to help limit any potential spread of the virus. Dwayne Anderson, TVJ News.
Now, changes are coming for COVID-19 testing protocols at airports for Jamaicans. Jamaicans who are labeled as high risk have to do a test after they return to the country from overseas. Chief Medical Officer Jacqueline Bisesa McKenzie outlined the new plans Thursday at the Special Select Committee meeting.
What we are doing, Jamaican for a Jamaican, okay? So that test, we are trying to move away from the airport testing. And so the appointments will be made within the parish that they are for them to do that test there. Okay? So persons will be given either a quarantine order or a stay-at-home order based on the level of risk, and then they will be required to do the test. And we are hoping that we can get that test done within 48 hours.
A Jamaica Defense Force soldier, JDF, is in critical condition at hospital after being shot during a confrontation with gunmen in the African Gardens community of Augustown last night. It's reported that about 9:45 p.m. a JDF team was conducting an operation in the community. A group of men at a premises on Bedward Crescent opened fire on the soldiers, leading to a shootout. During the exchange, the JDF soldier was shot in the abdomen. He was taken to hospital where he underwent emergency surgery. The soldier is currently in intensive care awaiting further surgeries. A male from the Augustown community has since turned up at the University Hospital of the West Indies, UHWI, suffering from gunshot wounds to both legs. He's being questioned by the police. Now, the Augustown community has been plagued by gang violence in recent times and has drawn the attention of the security forces. Numerous anti-gang operations and patrols have been conducted in the past weeks as the security forces target gangs and other criminals in that community. And we now take a break here on the Midday News, but stay with us. We have more news when we return. Welcome back, continuing the news. Residents of Greenwich Town in St. Andrew have been promised that they will not be abused by security forces. The assurance came as a Zone of Special Operations, ZOSO, was announced for the crime-hit community. The details from Dwayne Anderson.
This 16-year-old says his foot was broken by Jamaica Defense Force JDF soldiers on operation in his community in Majestic Gardens, St. Andrew, earlier this year. And this video shows a fight between soldiers and a man in Denham Town, Kingston. They are two recent reminders of the sometimes strained relationship between inner city residents and the security forces. Now, the second incident took place at a ZOSO checkpoint on Oxford Street, Denham Town. Not far from Denham Town, another ZOSO has been set up in Greenwich Town, St. Andrew. Chief of Defence Staff Lieutenant General Rocky Meade says steps have been taken to prevent the abuse of citizens in this ZOSO.
We want to assure citizens that all members of the Jamaica Defence Force and Jamaica Constabulary Force who are working in the zone have been properly trained and certified to do so, giving due regard to the protection of basic human and citizens' rights, as well as the unique requirements of the ZOSO legislation. We urge you to acquaint yourselves with these regulations and requirements in order to easily and conveniently transit the area as you go about your lawful business. We ask you to comply with the instructions of the security forces as we strive to remove the criminal elements from the area and enable the social intervention measures to be put in place.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness also stressed the need for residents to trust the security forces in these operations. Now, as for how effective these security operations have been, Police Commissioner Major General Anthony Anderson explained that the two previous ZOSOs in Mount Salem, St. James and Denham Town, Kingston have seen mixed results.
We have seen the effect in Mount Salem, where since its imposition in 2017, significant community development has taken place, and they have not had a murder over the past 3 years. Denham Town, it has not been murder-free, but it has significantly reduced from what it was before. There's certainly a 30% decrease in murders in Denham Town and a 66% decrease in shootings in that space.
The security forces say the Greenwich Town community has been under the control of gangs and dons for a while, and the intervention is to take back the community. The security forces released statistics showing there have been 7 murders and 8 shootings in the Greenwich Town community so far this year. During the period of the ZOSO in Greenwich Town, the social arms of the state will work with citizens to, among other things, divert young persons from a life of crime by providing them with skills training. Dwayne Anderson, TVJ News.
Now, the Ministry of National Security says it will continue to facilitate crime intervention and prevention strategies in targeted communities despite the formal ending of the Citizens Security and Justice Program, CSJP. Speaking at a JIS think tank session on Thursday, Acting Chief Technical Director in the Ministry of National Security, Shauna Trowers, said residents in targeted communities will still be able to access the services of the CSJP through the relevant ministries, departments, and agencies.
The foundation for that transition is the strategic link with the Plan Secure Jamaica Citizen Security Plan, which is multidimensional, and so it will take in all the various ministries, departments, and agencies as we look at a 3-pronged approach: reduction of crime and violence, increasing community and human development, and providing for safer spaces.
The CSJP is aimed at reducing crime and violence among children. Program Manager Orville Simmons said that children are likely to respond to conflicts with violence because of the parenting they've received.
Parents who practice abusive parenting, coercive parenting, their children tend to, not necessarily always, but tend to underperform in school. And those children also tend to practice abuse and settling conflicts through violence.
Now, Mr. Simmons notes that parents should reconsider corporal punishment as it may not be in the best interest of the child.
And by doing that, we would seek to stop that intergenerational transmission of violence and violent norms and violence practices by getting the parents to start practicing more caring, more positive parenting.
This, he said, will result in the child using less violence in conflict resolution. Abraham Lawrence, the mentally ill man who languished in prison for more than 20 years, was offered bail in the sum of $10,000 when he appeared in the St. Elizabeth Parish Court this morning. The Legal Aid Council filed an application for him to be released. Mr. Lawrence was released into the custody of his brother. His attorney, Yashane Morgan, told the court that a psychiatric evaluation had not yet been conducted. Mr. Lawrence is to return to court next Friday. He was taken into custody in 1999 on a charge of malicious destruction of property. And we go now to news in sports. Cricket West Indies President Ricky Skerritt says coach Phil Simmons' job is under no threat following calls by the CWI director for him to be sacked after he left the team's bubble to attend his father-in-law's funeral. We have the details from Bernardo Brown.
Barbados Cricket Association President Conde Raleigh, in an email to CWI President Ricky Skerritt, asked for the immediate removal of head coach Phil Simmons after news circulated that he had left the biosecure venue to attend a funeral. Raleigh said he had been bombarded with calls from concerned parents and members of the BCA and says the behavior is inconsiderate and reckless. But Skerritt, who reappointed Simmons, reiterated that the coach advised them of his engagement well in advance and that proper protocols were followed to have him reintegrated. Skerritt says the former batsman has nothing to worry about.
Phil Simmons still has the full backing of CWI behind him, no matter what has been said. And when all is said and done, Phil's job is not in any way threatened by that said letter.
Simmons, who prides himself as a family man, is unperturbed by what is thrown at him, seeing he had to support his 3 kids and wife.
If somebody wants to use that and try and use that against me, well, all well and good to them. If that is to break up the camp and to change our focus, that hasn't worked because our focus is still on the series that we've come here to play and how we prepare for that.
President Skerritt conceded that the Trinidadian was within his rights to leave based on CWI's policy.
It is also a well-established policy for CWI players and team officials while on tour to be given permission for compassionate leave as and when needed. The matter of Coach Simmons exiting and returning to Old Trafford should therefore have never been controversial in any way.
The 57-year-old Simmons has already put the issue behind him and is just a matter of making the right calls from now on.
There's no looking at my job. I never had that in mind. This was an occasion where I had to do what is right for my family, just as I would do what is right for Cricket West Indies for the rest of the series.
The West Indies will now travel to Southampton for next Wednesday's first test of 3, with Simmons returning negative results. Renata Brown for TVJ Sports.
And that's the Midday News. I'm Herman Green. Remember, the primetime package is at 7. Please join us then. On behalf of the news, sports, and production teams, good afternoon.